What is up, YouTube? I am Eric and you are watching Retro Video Game Pickups, and in this video we are going to be looking at the NES and fixing the power port on the back. Now this power port is broken, the plastic around it is broken apart, and so it kind of works but it kind of doesn't. So I want to fix this and show you guys how to do that. So if you like games, consoles, or product reviews, make sure you consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification. With that being said, let's hop into it. Okay, so here I have this NES, and it is one that has 2 dots on it for some reason. I may try to get those off eventually or not, I don't really care. It says Video Country all over this thing, on the top, on the back, you name it. It was a rental unit, so I'm not surprised that this is happening, but there is a power port in the back here, that AC power adapter, and the plastic around it is actually broken, which means it's loose when you plug it in, which means it doesn't always turn on when you hit that power button. So I wanted to take this apart and show you guys how to fix this and how easy it is. So let's go over to the workbench and find out how to fix this thing. Okay, so here we have the NES that I'm going to go ahead and take this power port here that is a good power port and put it in this thing. So what I'm going to do real quick is kind of show you a quick sped up how to take this down. Now I'm not going to talk during it or anything like that, but I'm going to take it apart and show you guys kind of what you need to do in order to get to the board. I'm not going to show you anything fancy there, but then once the board is out, then I will show you how to do this. So we're going to go real quick through this and then we'll get back to the board itself. Okay, so here we have the board with the broken slot here. You can see there's a crack there and it's dirty, obviously. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and try to desolder this. I'm not sure how that'll do, and if I can't, I'll go this way. But the goal is to desolder this, that way I can open this up and fix this power port, because I'm not happy with that power port. It looks like it's been glued in and I'm just not happy with it. So what I'll do is I have this from the old one that was busted, and I'm gonna use this as kind of a way to set it on. But I'm gonna go ahead and grab my desolder wire, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to try to do this. So I'm going to move this over just a bit to the side to make it easier, and then we are going to go ahead and take this wicking wire, which is weirdly awesome how this stuff works. Basically you get the solder hot and then this just kind of wicks it away. It's incredibly cool. If you've never done it before, it's very interesting. You can just literally heat up everything, and then the copper itself actually pulls it off, which is interesting. So I'm going to clean that. I'm going to keep doing this a little bit because I want it to be kind of simple, and so the best way to do that is to just keep doing what I'm doing here, and hopefully we can get that solder to stick to that cable and then basically come off of these places. That way we can take it apart. Now last time I did this, I actually had problems with it, so we'll see how it goes, if it's actually gonna work this time or no. I'm not sure if the last one I used, if something was wrong or if it just wasn't liking it, whatever it was. Now I got it stuck. Look at this. This happens when too much solder gets in there. You almost have to heat it up and remove it. It's ridiculously hard. If you guys can see, I'm pulling this very, very hard and it's just stuck on there. So I'm gonna try to see if I can heat this back up again a little bit. And once I get it heated up, you'll see it come right off. Look, there, it's starting to peel. Let's see if I can get that solder. Because what has happened is there's actually too much solder on the wick there. And so instead of wicking it away, it just kind of gets stuck on the solder. And the solder actually is on this so much that it actually solders itself again. So you've always got to be working with this to kind of get it to release off of there and to not get it stuck. Now, I'm not sure how great this is going to work because these things right here have a ton, and I mean a ton, of solder on them. And honestly, I'm not sure if they need that much, to be honest. We'll see. So I'm still trying to wick that solder away, and yes, I may flip it over and see if I can do it another way. I'm actually going to try this plunger as well, because sometimes the plunger works better just depending on what it is. Plunger seems to be doing a decent amount, honestly. I'm gonna keep trying that this time. Now it looks like it's starting to desolder a little bit over here. So let's grab this wick, see if we can get some of it to come off on here. Or a lot of it. Look at that. Soldered it on again. You also got to be careful that this copper doesn't get too hot as well, because it'll travel down and burn your hands where you're holding it if it does get too hot. So it looks like it's working, but it's gonna be a little bit. So what I'm gonna probably do is kind of speed this up for you guys, that way you guys aren't waiting for me to do each individual one, but I will speed it up for you guys, that way it works out a little better for you. Okay, so I'm not sure if we have this done enough, but I think we're getting close. So what I'm going to do is start to try to apply just a little bit of pressure. What I'm going to do is set this down and kind of flex it just a little bit. See if I'm going to apply a little pressure here to see if we can get it to actually come out of that hole. So as you can see, this wire actually works really well, but I want to make sure that everything is working great when we end up doing it. So I'm gonna try some more, and we're gonna keep trying to see if we can end up getting that to work. Honestly, sometimes it's easy to draw all of the solder out with these, and sometimes it takes a little bit more time, which is understandable for what you're doing, but I like to make sure I get it all out. That way we can pull this thing out as best as possible. Now, it is hard to get all of it out, so sometimes I like to try and run the soldering iron just a little bit across, like this. And then I'll hit it with this as well. See if we can draw some more out of there. Looks like that is working, so that is a good deal. Man, that gets hot, so be careful if you're gonna do this. Looks like I got most, if not all of that right there on that pin, but we're still gotta keep rolling on this other one and see if we can get all of it out. It may actually be pretty close, if not all the way out on this one as well. There's a little bit there. Looks like those two might actually be out. So what I'm gonna do is kind of pick up the board, make sure this is okay to touch first, and I'm gonna try to wiggle that just a little bit. Oh, did you guys hear that pop? So it is at least coming loose on those two. I'm gonna hit all of these pins again and then those two, and I should be able to just pop it right off. Honestly, this takes a little time, but it looks like it is working well for us. The awesome part is when you do get it right on, you can definitely see when it sucks out all that solder. Like that one that just did, as I was standing here watching it, I could see the actual solder go up the wick, which is very awesome and very good whenever you're sitting here and hoping that it's taking. So what I like to do is make sure everything's hot enough and then just hit it with that wick, and then you should start seeing it come up it, and when that happens, you're good to go. Now this one looks like it's gonna be pretty easy to pop off, honestly. There's a, oh, there it goes. Ow. So when you're doing this, be careful, because I don't want you guys trying this and getting hurt. So be very careful when you're touching all this stuff. It does get hot, but you've got to be patient. It's not a quick fix by any means because of the way you're doing it, but if you want to save money, it is a great way to actually save money and fix your old NES. And honestly, you can see whenever the copper turns silver, which means it is totally pulling that solder out, and it's just so awesome when you can see that. That one might need to go a little bit more, so I'm gonna actually cut off some more. If you notice, I do cut it off once it gets a little bit farther up there, because it does take longer and just is easier to cut it off and keep rolling. I'll clean up this pile once I'm done, so I don't really worry about it right now, but you'll notice that when it starts to pull again, usually when it's like this one that doesn't have much solder in it, you're pretty much good to go. I move it around, move this one around a little bit too. I'm gonna see if I can get it to pull out. That one's good. When you're able to move it like that, that means you've got all, if not most, of the solder out, and once you see those pins start to wiggle a little bit, you can definitely either wiggle it loose with force, or you can try to keep soldering it. Sorry, I just hit the camera there. So like this one, I just moved it just a little bit and was able to watch it move, so that's a good thing. I'm gonna make sure I get all of that wick out of there. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up again and see how far we can pop this bad boy out. Okay, maybe I popped it out a little too far. That's okay. I'm gonna hit these and then they should just pop right out, honestly. Let's see. Hold on just 1 second. I like that pressure that it's putting on the solder with it tilted like that. It shouldn't bend the pins or anything else, so I'm not too worried about that. But I do want to make sure that we don't break anything, so I'm being cautious when we do this. And it looks like we're able to wick most of it away. I'm gonna try to get around here. I think this is the one that's keeping it in place right now. Yeah, look at that. It's still too much right there. So what I'm gonna do is see look at that. So all of them but that back one are out. So I'm just gonna leave it kind of like this and see if I can hit it. I'm gonna actually cut this a little bit, the wick, so it'll wick it out if there is any. But I think with the pressure that it is, it'll kind of move a little bit and we should be good to go. Yeah, look at that, it's coming right out. So I'm just gonna, and now we've got that board off. So what I'm gonna do is actually clean up all of this first before we solder everything back in. Here is what the actual board looks like and on the back side. And so I'm very happy to have popped that off. So I'm just gonna set this over here on the side for now. We won't mess with it right now, but now what we're gonna do is look at this and see if I can just pop this off and fix that. It does take a little pressure, but that's okay. You can push it off with your hands. If not, you can also use a screwdriver. Let's see, did I get it all? Okay, so I got all of this off. Now I will need to figure out how to put this over to the side. Now I need to figure out how to get this board that's in here off. So I'm gonna take this bottom piece off as well. I like to just take that off so I can see it. And here you can see all the board and the workings. So what I'll do is I'll actually desolder it and then pull the board out, and then we should be able to look at it. But before you do that, make sure you get this screw right here and make sure you remove that before you try to, because if you don't, you may end up damaging it by doing that. So I'm just gonna take that out and set it up to the side. So here you go. I'm gonna grab this soldering wick and the soldering iron and kind of set this kind of like that to give it a little bit more support. And then we will go into what it is that we need to do when it comes to actually desoldering it. And honestly, once you've got to this point, you're pretty close to being done. But we're just making sure we're set up, everything's ready to go. And then I'm going to take this wick, I'm going to hit it on that solder, let that solder get nice and hot, and it should wick all of that away. And you can see it go up the wick as well. So when you're doing something like this, it's kind of just tack welded on. You can always, almost always, just use the wick and kind of move it around like this, how I am. Now, if you're not careful, you can heat it up and cool it down and the wick will get stuck. So it's not a hard thing to fix, but you also want to make sure that you get all of that off. And what I'm going to do go ahead and cut it again, just so I will have a fresh piece. That way I'm not fighting trying to do that. Now you can be more finicky or picky about how you do this if you want to and not use as much of the wick, but this wick is really cheap and I'm not too bummed if I run out of a little bit of it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off again. Like I said, this wick is cheap. I want to say it's like 10 bucks for a whole roll of it. I want to say it's like 10 feet, which, I mean, there's still a bunch left from all of this. So make sure if you're gonna desolder stuff, you buy this, because this will save you tons of time and frustration, because you try to just use a pump, it oftentimes takes forever. So that's why I am super glad that I bought this wick and I use it, because it just helps so much, honestly. It pulls, I don't know how it works, but it pulls all of the solder out really well and it just helps you guys out in the long run. So what you can see is I'm actually cutting off the wick very pretty much regularly, just kind of to make it easier on myself, but you don't have to do that. Like I said, if you can get it heated up enough, you can really just set it on there and it should pull it off. But if you just want to do it fast, you can also cut it and it'll save you some time for sure. So now let's see if this was enough to pull it out. Now it looks like that's good. That one looks like it's good. All of those look good. So I'm gonna just kind of look at it quickly and see what all needs to be fixed. Now I'm gonna have to desolder some of this stuff before we even try to take this board off, like this port and maybe this port, I don't know. And these two definitely. Everything else should drop out with it. I think I might leave that one and see if I could just desolder those three and then be happy. So let's do that right now. What I'll do is I'll actually leave them on that plastic case or that metal casing around it, but I will get rid of that solder ball right there so they can just come out whenever I'm ready for them to. Looks like I got that one really quick, and honestly when that happens it's very great. At other times it takes forever. Like, look at this, I'm pretty sure I got all of that taken out very quickly, so I'm happy with that. We're gonna do it with these two as well and try to see if we can do that kind of in one foul swoop. Set this up here, just hold on to it and you can see it rolling up, which is awesome. I love to see that. What I'm gonna do is actually move it down like that. You saw that, it just grabbed all of it. So there we go. We've got most, if not everything, detached from that board, because honestly, in order to put the new the new adapter on, you have to do that. So it looks like we should be able to push down on it and see that flex. Okay, it looks like that's working. So I'm gonna go over to this side and maybe right there I'll hit it with this wick one more time and see if we can get everything off of there, just in case there's some left down there. It looks like that's good to go. And this one I'm going to do the same thing just to make sure. It pulled a little bit off of there, so that's cool. So everything there is working. I'm gonna cut this one more time. I know you guys are probably getting tired of hearing that, but I want to let you guys know kind of how to do it. So this side is ready. This side, I'm gonna unscrew that. I don't think that screwdriver will work, so I'm gonna grab the smaller one, just unscrew it like this for you guys. I mean, it's not hard, it's pretty easy to see. It's just screws, honestly. 2 Phillips heads. They're smaller, but I have a small set over here basically. So I can push that down. Should be able to. And I should be able to push this side down. So I'm gonna start pushing on this side, and then a little bit I'll flip over to this side. And try not to break anything when you push down. You may want to grab something. Let's see, is there anything I can use to kind of see whether or not it will actually come apart yet? That side's ready. This side's starting to get ready. Let's see, does anything else connect? That's what I'm looking for on the board. And I think there's two more right here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wick those 2 away because it looks like that is how it is attached. It's okay, I can hit this really quickly. I'm gonna hit this one first just because of where it's located. It's a lot easier to get to, and I won't have to worry about messing with that plastic piece. Some of these have a ton of solder in them, so you'll just hit it and then it'll just pour out, and then others barely have any, so make sure you are paying attention when you do that. You get all the solder out because some do have more and some have less, obviously, so be prepared for that. Make sure you check on that. Now, if you'll notice when I do this, usually it takes 1 or 2 hits of the solder gun and then you just use that copper. Now this one's going to be harder because of where it's located, so I'm kind of got to be careful about it. I don't want to mess up anything. I love seeing that. It's awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna do this one more time just to make sure I got all of it from that one, because that one is a little in a weird place and I just want to make sure that we get all of that off. So that looks good. So we're good there. So now I'm gonna try it again with that screwdriver, just giving it a little bit of pressure. Seeing it flex like that is a good thing. At least when you start to move it, it will be. So it looks like that's good. I'm gonna push down over here and see if there's any more. Oops. So you gotta be careful when you're doing this. Obviously, you don't want to mess up the board, but at the same time, you do want to apply a little pressure. As you guys can see here, the board flexes, and so if you push it down on here, you should be able to move it a little bit. It looks like something may be still caught. Let's see. Yeah, there's this right here that needs to be removed as well. So you gotta be careful when you're doing this. Sometimes I've gone through here and it's been a breeze doing this, and other times it's not so much. When you're doing this, you want to make sure you do not mess up any of these traces or whatever, so be very careful. That one almost fell out instantly because of the pressure from the bending of the board, but that is an okay thing. I'm gonna go ahead and try to lift it up, and you guys can see the board's moving itself, and so I want to make sure everything is fine and dandy before I do try to take it out. And as you can tell, it is fine and dandy. Now the weird thing is you either have to deal with this or you have to deal with this. So what I'm gonna do is actually try to break this plastic off a little bit. It's already broken, so I'm not gonna do anything to it, but it should help it actually slide out easier, because this plastic right here is just kind of in the way. So I'm gonna break that off, and that flew, so I'm gonna do it towards the ground this time. Okay, so that one flew as well. Not too worried about that, it'll just help it slide out, and then here we are. Now we've got the regular board here. What I'm going to do is actually get it set up a little bit and show you guys what I'm doing, and then we will actually go through and show you how to take this power port here and remove the solder that needs to be and add it back in, and then we will go through the motions of plugging it in after we put it back together. Okay, so I'm gonna take this power port and set it off to the side, and now if you look at it before I put it off to the side, I should have showed you this. If you actually look at it, you can see that there are 3 pins there, so that is what you're gonna do when you remove this. Now you'll notice there is solder to all of that and then that, so be careful when you are soldering it back on that you do not mess that up. But I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can set it down a little bit so it kind of works better for you guys to see. And we're gonna go ahead and wick all that solder away if we can. That was like the best. Look how far this went. That is a lot of solder, and that was like the best draw that I've had today. So I'm very happy about that. What I like to do is pull it out a little bit in case stuff like that does happen. I can always go in and be happy. Now it looks like I got most, if not all, of that solder away from those 2 places. So I'm gonna hit this back pin, and then we should be able to pull it out all the way. But you gotta be careful because of what's around it as well. So I'm gonna kind of try to pull it off more towards the power port side than the other port side. So if you notice that, there is a reason. It's because I don't want to mess up the other stuff that is around it. So be careful. If you can tell by now, I've actually pulled that off pretty much. So it's pretty much done at this point. It should just pull out, honestly. And look at that, it did. Now they tried to glue this back together, so this one was totally broken. Nothing worked, so I was happy to have this power cord from that busted one. And what I'm gonna do is actually put this solder back on, and be careful because, well, you want it to all work. So I'm gonna try to get this to work really quickly. Now if I can have my solder, which is for some reason over there, I should be able to do this pretty quickly. This is something that's very easy to do. I just need to fix my solder. So give me 1 second and I'll be back and show you how to do this. So I got my solder ready. I like to pull it out a little bit and kind of hold on to it, but that is because I want it to be more proper, I guess is probably the proper term. But we're gonna make this work pretty well. I'm gonna put it in there, and then I'm just gonna use my pressure of the gun, of the soldering iron, and try to keep that intact here. And it looks like it should stay once I move it because I'm holding it down enough. So I'm gonna hit this back here with it first, make sure all that works, and I will mount that better. Look at that, that looks pretty good. Now, once I do this, I will clean it up because if you guys can tell, it did get a little messy, and that's okay. That happens when you're soldering, so I'm not too worried about it, but I will want you to know that that will happen. So now, if you notice, I've got the power plug back powered on and everything looks good. So what I'm gonna do is kind of show you guys how to put it back together, but really quickly. I'll speed it up and show you guys, and once it is put back together, I will then plug it in and show you guys, and we will get a recap. So with that being said, let's enjoy this fast put back together. Okay, so now is the moment of truth. I have that NES that was broken here, and I'm gonna go ahead and try to plug it in on the back here. Then I want to check out this light right here. Let's see if you guys can see it. It works now. That is totally rad. So what we're gonna do is talk about this little recap here. This was an NES that was busted. The power port was wrong on it. It was broke and it didn't work. So what I did was take it apart, show you guys how to desolder it and then resolder the new one on there, and then go about putting it back together. Now, if you've watched this far, I want to say thank you so much for watching. This is probably going to be a long video, and I'm glad you've made it this far. If you will, I want to know what you guys think. Comment down below and let me know what you think of this video, because it is probably going to be a longer one, and I want to know if you reached the end. So let me know if you did. As well, I am very happy that this worked, and if you have an NES that has had this problem and you don't have the money to go out and buy a new NES, but you have a soldering iron around, you could buy the parts for cheap. Now, I took this from a busted one that I had over there in the corner, and honestly, I'm okay with it. So with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell notification, because it lets you know when I post more videos, which is every day, if not every day. So with that being said, one last time, thank you so much for watching, and make sure you have a good day.